Hel- Hello and welcome to a Legionaries Life. I, Here I am with voice and all. Yes, I know it sounds horrible. Now, this is a great game. I've played it a dozen times. It's very hard when you're first getting started, but I've done it a few times, and once you get going, it's smooth sailing. But smooth sailing is not fun to watch, so I went ahead and I deleted all of my saves. So I will be starting back to square one in the horrible pain that is. Here we go. Personally, I prefer for this to go try to get a high awareness like this. Okay, this is actually pretty good. Good awareness will open up a lot of opportunities for you within the game. But though I will be lacking a bit of intellect, which will not as needed for it's more needed for the epilogue than anything. Meanwhile, coordination can be quite bad, but I think I can deal with it. Number one, I don't have anything. The First War lasted for over 20 years. Conflict had been only a matter of time once the relentless expansions of Rome came close to the huge Carthaginian sphere of influence. A young power propelled by a staggering self-confidence, Rome had most of the Italic peninsula under its control at that time. On the other side was the Punic city of Carthage, a centuries-old naval colossus dominating the western Great Sea. An insurmountable gap in power and prestige seemed to divide the two cities. Unexpectedly, the Roman Republic basically termed, of course, war there. Unexpectedly, the Roman Republic emerged victorious, incomplete as the victory was. Building upon its success, the city's maritime territory grew larger and more secure, while humiliating conditions well beyond the actual extent of the defeat were imposed upon Carthage. Nevertheless, the price was tremendous for both parties. Some say that not even Alexander's conquest devoured so many lives, and all paled compared to what was to come. The truth of that fall lasted for a generation. You were a child in the situation, hovering on the brink of war once again. You still remember the talk in Rome back then, when everyone expected the looming conflict to take place in the distant colonies of Hispania to the west, now that an attack by the sea was nigh impossible. The astonishment when the news reached the city is still fresh in your memory. A bold, not yet 30 Carthaginian general named Hannibal Barca had led an army through the lands of the fierce Gauls and across the mountains to the north. The war was here in Italia, a few hundred miles from Rome itself. The following years were marked by a growing panic as reports of the whole armies annihilated by Hannibal kept coming in. The Punic general was stronger, smarter than anything Rome had ever faced before. Yet his attempt to turn the Italic allies of the Republic was unsuccessful. Defeating him in a pitched battle was beyond the realms of possibility. That was clear to the Romans. At the same time, he could not lay siege to the capital. The conflict turned into an endless war of attrition. Meanwhile, another war was being fought in faraway Hispania, modern-day Spain. Crucial to prevent reinforcements from joining Hannibal, about a year ago, Roman legions were soundly defeated and their commanders, proconsul Publius Cornelius Scipio and his brother Gnaeus, were killed. What little remained of the army was now controlling a small patch of land. Even after reinforcements joined the survivors, the city looked more desperate than ever. When the Centuriate Assembly had to appoint a new proconsul, Only Scipio's son, a young man still in his 20s, stepped forward. No one else wished to take on such a hopeless assignment. On the other hand, had no choice at all. You, on the other hand, had no choice at all. Right after you came of age, you were enrolled in a freshly raised legion, part of a second, 11,000 strong reinforcement. Bound to accompany the new proconsul after a brief training period, you embarked on a long journey to Hispania. Now you've reached your destination and joined what is left of the previous army. Apparently, the Romans, out of the picture, the Carthaginians have divided into 3 large hosts, each of them at least as big as your current force. They are a long way from your headquarters, committed to securing the whole region. So far away from your home that you can hardly comprehend the distance, with little to no chance of ever seeing your family again. Deprived of most of the rights you held as a civilian, you feel strangely calm as you prepare to face the hardships to come. Where do we start? Morale's good, virtue is okay. No one seems to really like me, though. I guess the best idea would be to work on some of my lacking physical abilities. This is going to be honest, a large chunk of the game. It is just going to be clicking on different trainings, different buttons. I have no money here, so I just cannot afford to do anything here. Leisure is quite good. One, to get rid of stress, and to lose all of your money. You're stuck with an especially aggressive sparring partner this morning. Curtis has been in Hispania since long before your arrival. He is one of the survivors of last year's debacle. His blade has come dangerously close to your throat twice already. Even a wooden practice sword can be lethal when it's used like that. Because I have... was it tab? Because I have no skill, 29 is pitiful. I'm just going to keep going. You try to stand your ground as best you can, but he's too skilled for you. A quick slash of your sword and a thrust to your ribs leave you panting for a gas, and I lost 5 of my 5 health. Trying hard to shrug off the pain, you keep going till the end of this practice session. That is a rather big chunk of my health out of a random event. Oof. Another big thing will be basic training. This will be your sword practice and your javelin practice. You're going to mostly be using your sword, though a javelin can come in handy. You have known Quintus Lavinius since you were kids. Now he's in the same menopause as you. You've noticed he's been acting nervously as of late. Ask him what's wrong. And I failed every single check. Am I seriously that bad? Apparently I am. You do not want to be doing anything while the red is there. It will take what little morale you have at start. Now we just do some basic gambling, because that is a great way to do stuff. The regular pay is pretty pitiful at this part of the game. I cannot afford any of this. Though I can afford this sword, which will be nice. Yeah, we're gonna buy that sword. Make sure it's good for today's battle. As is, I have pretty bad everything here. The shield's pretty good though. It does not change at all throughout the game. So sword's okay. This pectoral plate it's basically a piece of metal tied to your chest, and that's it. That is your armor. It's not very good. And this helmet, it's just a piece of metal that goes on top of your head. It's also not very good. It also takes away part of your awareness, which is why I wanted a high awareness stat. Because the bigger and better your helmet is, the more awareness it gets rid of. So I wanted a good awareness stat. That way it is compensated for. Just hanging around camp is a great way to raise your opinion with the troop and your morale. It is. Okay, another random event. Scaling walls is part of today's drill. In front of your line of ladders propped against the camp walls. One by one, the men ahead of you sprint towards it and start climbing. Very soon, it's your turn. Again, I have basically no good stats, especially not coordination, which will be needed to climb the ladder. So I'm going to just do it carefully, that way I don't fall and injure myself. Even if it did harm both my centurion and the troop. And javelin practice just to fill the rest of the time. And time is up. We have to move on to battle. The camp bursts into activity as the whole army prepares to leave. You march south. It doesn't take long for your destination to become apparent. You are bound for New Carthage, the capital of the Carthaginian colonies here in Hispania. It's a daring move and very risky. Several days later, you reach your destination, and camp is not far from the city. Going to Camp Tuck, the closest army is about 10 days' march from here. A long siege is out of the question. You have to take New Carthage by storm. You cast a glance at the city walls, strong stone walls. The thought of fighting your way up there makes your stomach churn. It's hard not to think that you may not be looking at the place where your days will end. Again, inventory. We actually have a pretty good chance at getting a bullseye with javelin. 10%, 1 in 10. Well, about that. This stat right here is a pain. The no action, it will change based on the situation, and at some points it can get up to about 33% that you don't get an action. Which is terrible when fighting. It's just, it can ruin everything. The next morning, your maniple is among the first to move out of the camp and reach the plain right in front of the city. If what your centurion said is true, the garrison of New Carthage consists of a small mercenary army, possibly 1,000 strong, and of course the city's militia. You are taking your place on the battlefield when all of a sudden cries of alarm rise from the ranks. You look ahead with a start. The city gate is wide open, a screaming mass numbering thousands leaves the safety of the walls, quickly closing the gap. You are partially deployed first line. Judging by their scant equipment, they must be the militia. The enemy commander wouldn't risk his precious mercenaries like this. Blood pounding in your ears, you get ready to receive them as the first battle of your life engulfs you. Just a quick throw into the enemy ranks that will prevent any... If you do a targeted throw with this low of a skill, it will almost certainly miss and you will get a morale negative for it. So at this point, just not worth it. And this is a guaranteed check. As the other side gets closer and closer, you steel yourself for the incoming fight. Quick javelin. Not bad, though he doesn't have a chest plate, leg armor, or a helmet. So he can't really do much. Oof. Otherwise, if I had to do this. If we go here, if I toggle damage, you can see what the multiplier for the damage is for each thing. So the torso is your basic 1% 1 times the damage. A head is 1.5, and the neck, which is the hardest to hit, is the most damage you can do. Feints can be quite useful for getting them off balance, which is this blue bar here. And as you can tell, the red one is obviously their health. Shield is another great way to do that. But this green bar down here, that's your stamina. It's how tired you are. And like I said, the neck is one of the hardest to hit. The attitude bar here is your current fighting stance. Whether you are more attack focused or you're more focused on your defense. Now, I'm going to take advantage of his weakened stance and use my attack stance to just go for a simple torso. And I failed, taking a bit of my my coordination. Now I'm going to risk it, and it failed even harder. Recover, which will get me a big chunk of mine back. And I will say, just about every single battle lasted about 20 rounds. As you can see up here, we're on round 9. Oh, come on. It's like 2 health. And getting a bit too overzealous there. You can see I failed pretty hard. No, not pretty hard, but I did take some damage. And the militiamen here got a no action. And they're dead. This is a perfect time to try to get a respite in, and it failed. Go figure. They like almost always fail. That is not good. I see up here, situation shifting. You won't be able to keep facing the current enemy for much longer. So, just to finish it off, and this part of the battle is over. But it will not be our only encounter. as an improvised pursuit is attempted, but your vanguard is stopped at the city gate before it can break in. And I have no stats to actually do this. To actually be part of the special encounter. So we will storm the city walls normally. Many ladders are propped up against the walls, while a constant shower of missiles, this being javelins, arrows, all that, is raining down from the battlements. The centurion promised to share a generous portion of his reward should he manage to be the first man over the wall. Because I have terrible stats, as well, they're not terrible, but still not stuff I'm too trustworthy of. I'm just going to do my best to stay alive. And I'm unhurt by incoming javelins such. Suddenly, the noise begins to dwindle and fade. You can't believe what you are seeing. Hundreds of Roman legionaries are running along the top of the wall, coming from the north. How did they get there? Anyhow, the punics are melting before them, leaving the battlements unguarded. Fun fact, punic is actually a slur. In the end, your allies reach the gate and open it, letting in the bulk of your legion. You are following your maniple into the city streets. Your orders are very clear. Secure the city by killing everything that meets you in the open. Hopefully no one will be so ill-considered. Your thoughts are interrupted when a small number of militiamen are standing in your path. I did not get any of my javelins back, so we would not get any of those. The path currently going is just going to be a slow crawl trying to get through. When you make a mistake in this game, it can be very unforgiving, such as there have been many times in that first battle, the first encounter, that I have died time and time again. It is very dangerous to be doing that. Failed recovery. Who could have guessed? Oh, he gets a second action. And got the kill. Luckily. You look at the militiaman's lifeless body, quick thoughts flickering through your mind. Elevation or pity? Drafted into service, forced to fight to defend his home, it does ring a bell. You wonder about the people waiting for him at home, never to see him come back. An officer yelling out orders brings you back to earth with a bump. You move on. You keep marching along the streets as is custom. Looting is strictly prohibited until the battle is over. Stick to the rules and go ahead to the rally point. New Carthage is almost conquered, but 500 mercenaries from the garrison are still holding out in the citadel. The proconsul is looking for volunteers for an assault on this last bastion. He's throwing in more than double loot share. These mercenaries are nothing like the militia you have been facing until now. They may not be the enemy's best troops. They wouldn't have been left here if they were. But they are still professional soldiers. Only the most experienced legionaries are volunteering. No one would blame you if you backed off. Which I'm going to be reasonable, and I am going to back off because that is not a good idea from experience with this game. After a brief but intense struggle, the garrison surrenders. New Carthage has fallen. For the first time in so many years, a change in the tides of the war appears to be in the grass. Morale is increased by 8. You receive your share of the loot, 120 denarii, which is about 4 times my weight, about twice my wage. Hey, I'm not complaining. Your army has obtained an important base of operations. The city's resources will be invaluable for the rest of the campaign. Fighting in real battles has sharpened your skills. Sword, javelin, and shield all up by 5. And that is where I am going to leave it. We have just finished the battle for New Carthage. Have a great and wonderful day. I mean, not game.